Hi, everybody. I'm Alison with Alison Kent Home Kitchen, a site for all things kitchen. And today we're talking to Chef Robin Kort of Swallowtail. Just get her in here. Of Swallowtail, which is the best gourmet experiences BC has to offer. I saw that on your website. The best. I love the gourmet experiences.
Hey, sorry, I missed all of what you said.
While I was bringing you in, I was just introducing who you were. But I read on your website that it's the best gourmet experiences BC has to offer.
Oh, yes, definitely.
That's a claim to fame. I like it.
After the pandemic, I should say.
Post-pandemic. Well,
Yeah.
you still though. Today I was signed up for the Foraging beginner class, so
Yep,
don't
online.
need to worry about pandemic for that one.
Totally.
And we'll get to that, but why don't you tell us a little bit about Swallowtail?
Yeah, so Swallowtail is basically about 12 years ago, I decided to step back into the kitchen because I grew up in Vancouver, so cooking in kitchens here. And then I went off into the land of video games as a video game artist for many, many years. And then I got sick of being in an office. So I was like, hey, let's start a business, but not, I didn't want to work in a restaurant, the daily grind all the time sort of thing. So I opened a restaurant in my house, basically. So that's Swallowtail Secret Supper Club. And I ran that for 2 years, 4 days a week, lots and lots of dinners, and it was really fun.
4 days a week?
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, we don't do that anymore. That was, basically I then started sort of getting out of the kitchen and organizing pop-up events and that sort of thing because my boyfriend was like, I can't do this.
Yeah. That's a lot. 4 days a week is a lot.
Yeah.
That was how I found out about you. Was a friend invited me to this like hush hush underground secret club dinner kind of thing, and it was just so cool. And what did we do? We brought our own wine, but I think you guys told us kind of what we were eating generally.
Yep.
But in short, the chef basically had gone to the market that morning, decided what was fun to cook with or just in season or available aplenty, and cooked how many courses? I don't remember. 5?
Usually it's minimum 5 up to, I think we've done 9. But those ones are really long evenings. So usually we stick to 5.
You need 2 bottles of wine for those ones.
Yeah. The summer ones are actually longer because we have the big garden in my backyard. And so those ones people just want to chill. And, as soon as it starts warming up, like even hopefully regulations will change and we can be okay with being together again. And we'll start the supper club up again when we're okay to be outside together, basically. So it'll happen, but who knows?
It was really cool. We were sitting, my husband and I and our friends were sitting up on the balcony.
Oh, cool.
And then, once we looked over, we realized there's a whole nother table down in the garden, which was really cool. Yeah. How many people were there average on the dinners?
40 is our max. But yeah, it's just sort of depends on the chef as well. So when I stopped cooking full time, I started collaborating with other chefs around Vancouver or guest chefs that were coming from France and Texas and different places from around the world. And for those ones, it was like, chefs that wanted to step out of the kitchen and cook exactly what they wanted to cook, regardless of ingredients, costs, or whatever. Just like, it's sort of like dream meals for them. So and those ones could be, maybe they want to cook for less people. Maybe they want to, So stipulations were, I definitely left it to the guest chef of the day to choose it.
But what a good venue. Like a lot of the restaurants do, they have the same menu for year after year. Not everybody does seasonal things, or even if they do seasonal things, it's the same seasonal thing they made last season. So, or like last year. So it's nice for them to kind of go flex their muscles a bit and get their creativity on. And I think the person that was cooking the night I was there had just come off around with the cruise ships or something. And she just wanted to like cook for just 40 people for a night.
Yeah, exactly.
Not for 4,000 people or whatever she was used to cooking for. It was a really cool thing. I really enjoyed it.
Was it Natasha?
Oh, I would be hard pressed to remember how many years ago it was actually right now. I want to say like 3 years ago,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, it might have been Natasha. She's like seafood pescatarian specialist. She worked on yachts forever, so so really she was one of the funnest people for me to work with because I do all the foraging now, right? So
Right.
if and that's my focus and that's what my my passion for both swallowtail as well as my own cooking style. So, I have a place on Galliano. I could get sea urchins, I could get, seaweeds, I could mushrooms in season, whatever. But with
Yeah.
her, it's like I could really flex my seafood muscles and have her do something cool with it.
It's a great thing for everybody. Like the guests really enjoyed it. We were talking to all the people around us and they all love food, obviously. So you already have something in common. The chef is getting to do something interesting. It's just the poor people with the dishes that.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have the secret dinners hopefully starting again, and you did a few pop-ups. I think we did a dinner with you that was carnivorous or the
Carnivoria. Yeah.
carnivoria.
Best. Yeah.
We did that one, and we had our whole family was here quarantining, so there was 8 of us quarantining together. So I think we even doubled it up and added things to it. It was such a feast. It was really good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the best. And actually, Carnivoria is one of our annual traditional events. So every summer, we usually it's at the Supper Club or at one of my pop-up venues around the city. But because we couldn't last year because of the pandemic, we were like, let's do takeout. And so voila. And we've done
Well,
a few takeouts, but
I mean, that's a different way for a chef to get to flex a different muscle too, right? Like they could maybe cook something off menu for that one night that you're hosting the takeout.
yep,
And it helps to support the local restaurants and like that's an all in all good thing too.
totally. Yeah. Poor chefs right now. I mean, yeah, it's a hard time, but
It's a
yep.
tough one, but things like that are really supporting them, I think. It's just thinking creatively and out of the box and how do we still get like numbers into your restaurant or your food, experiencing your food or whatever.
Yep. And also just like provide something, Swallowtail has always been about providing a unique, a totally different sort of experience than a typical restaurant. So yeah, it's been, and that's usually my mandate is to come up with the new experience or come work with a new, I work with chefs, but I also work with fishermen and hunters. We do like a game supper club or pop up as well as like online features on that sort of thing in fall, right? Because I work with a chef that hunts for her own meat, right? So she has access to like moose and elk and all these beautiful meats that you can't buy at the
Yeah.
grocery store or get in restaurants, right? So yeah, like Swallowtail is definitely, especially now, it's an information source. So with the online foraging school and all of my YouTube sort of cooking, snippets and tips and tricks for foraging and then cooking things. Yeah, I just want to like that's how I want to break people out of this funk and like just get them thinking about nature and eating.
Well, your website, your newsletters are packed full of information and recipes and like classes and things still moving and shaking. But then your blog too is just, I was sifting through it again the other day. I hadn't looked at it in a little while, and I was sifting through it again the other day. I'm like, this is a wealth of information. Like
Yeah.
you could write volumes of books with all the knowledge bumping around in your head, I'm sure, between the foraging and putting a dinner together and the fact that you are a chef, right? And the um everything that just kind of came with that. And I can't even fathom how much knowledge is in your brain. It's crazy.
And and the blog is like, I've been writing that for 12 years. So, and whenever anyone comes, whatever, on a mushroom tour hunt with me and they're like, oh, I really want to know about this, or how do you make a spore print, how as a tool to identify a mushroom sort of thing, right? So I'll do little sort of tips and tricks and I don't know, just fun things to do with your kids or whatever sort of flavor of the week.
Well, I like the family aspect too. I sent my son and my husband on one where you did the is it sea foraging or
Yep.
and hunted for the Dungeness. And I guess, did you do some other stuff? They were on it and I wasn't, but I think the only thing he focused on after that was Dungeness. And after that, every weekend he was down on a pier with his little crab traps and catching. We did our limit once and we caught 4 each. And
Oh, you got
that
very
was a good meal back at home. And then after that, he would catch maybe a couple, but that
yeah.
one time was just a haul. And he loved it. And now that's just part of his thing, right? Like you taught him how to fish. You
Cool.
literally taught him how to fish. And now he can go out any weekend or in season, I guess, or when they're actually, I think it's the tides. The tides bring in the crabs.
Yep,
Yep.
you want higher tide, and winter is actually the best time to fish for them because they're all plump and filled out into their shell. Because otherwise,
Oh.
in summer they molt. So sometimes you get really like crabs with very little meat in them. So
Oh.
winter is like when the water quality is like, and the crabs are ready to. So no one really wants to fish in the winter, but that's kind of when you should be.
Good to know. He will be out there. When he gets a day off work, he will be out there. He's working like 4 jobs right now. And your background is, you trained as a chef? You went to,
Yep. Yeah.
where did you
So
go?
I trained as a chef, and I worked. Ended up working like when I was quite young. So yeah, I'm older now. But yeah, so when I was 15, I started working in the restaurant industry. And so I did that for about 5 years in Vancouver, working for lots of different restaurants that aren't here anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's just like the turnover in Vancouver, it always has been this way, but now even
Yeah,
more, right?
even more so for sure. Yeah.
No, it's crazy. Yeah, so that, and then also, part of the supper club, like 12 years ago, was for me to stage with other chefs. So I did a stage in Barcelona. I lived there for a while. So working with different my favorite restaurants in the area, sort of thing. And I ended up having to come home just because of it was really hard to get a visa to actually permanently work there
Oh, okay. Yeah.
so I would have been there, but I'm here now.
And we're all the better for it.
Yeah,
Well,
no.
and also I don't know about I don't know where you were. You were in Barcelona, did you
Yeah,
say? Yeah.
yeah,
So the foraging there versus the foraging in a city like Vancouver.
totally different. And
Yeah.
yeah, like, I mean, I will say this is a little off kilter, but I noticed.
That's
So
okay.
yeah, so we were living in the Graciette neighborhood, and there's all these little parks, these beautiful little kind of small parks, not like
Yeah.
parks that we have here, right?
Yeah.
And I noticed these older Spanish men would be out there, and they were picking something in the in the meadows and stuff there. And so I'd watch them, right? And then I finally realized they were picking wild asparagus. And they're
Oh,
like
cool.
these thin, we get those
Yeah.
fat asparagus. The wild ones are very thin. And so I kept watching them, and then I started going and harvesting my own, right? So whenever I'd see them, I'd be like, oh my God, that's
That's
asparagus. So
asparagus.
cool. Right? Yeah. So that was like the only little tiny bit of foraging. And it's very urban there, so it's like it kind of felt a little too too urban.
Yeah.
But I mean, they were very tasty. Oh my goodness. Best asparagus I've ever had in my entire life.
Well, and as far as foraging, whether you're foraging out of the ocean or the forest or the meadow or whatever, it just doesn't get any fresher.
Yeah,
Like you literally cannot get fresher food than having gone and picked it that day or like that a couple hours before during a nice walk with your family too, right?
totally.
And
Yeah.
so there's just like no downside to all that.
No, exactly. Like, and even so, in winter, I focus a lot on seaweeds and harvesting seaweeds because it's
Oh, yeah, yeah,
great. Because it's an ingredient that people don't think of in Vancouver. We're such
yeah.
meat eaters here, even though we're at the sea, which is such a strange thing for me. But because we have that place on Galliano, it's like I have access to like super clean water and great seaweeds. So I'll go and harvest bull kelp, for example. It's one of my favorites, and you can eat the whole thing.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, and the stipe, so the stem,
Yeah.
that's sort of, the ball that floats on top and stuff, you can slice that up and make a pickle out of it, which is like really crunchy. And
Yeah.
when you add the vinegar to it, it goes bright green, so it's quite beautiful. And it's
Oh,
salty of the sea. You never have to salt anything, and it's got that umami quality. I have a little show and tell for you. I made a little furikake, so like a
yeah.
spice mix out of bull kelp, toasted sesame seeds, and Szechuan green peppercorn. And it's like you put this on rice, you put this on fish,
Ooh.
and it's like it tastes like BC, right? But it's
Yeah.
just this great little yummy,
And you
yummy.
make that yourself? You dehydrate
Yep.
the, yep.
I can even. I'll show you a little
Show and tell.
show and tell. So
So
that
do you just naturally dry that
in the sun.
in the
Yep.
sun?
So
Okay.
this is bull kelp, right? So
Yeah.
this is the blade, sort of the
Yeah.
the leaf that comes off the float, right? And so, I just roast that either in the oven, which gives it a more caramely taste, or sun dried, which will keep more of its greenness.
Right.
But yeah, and then you just put that in the food processor and blend it up, and this is your salt. Like you don't need any other
Yeah.
salt. And it's super, super tasty. So yeah.
Actually, now I feel bad because I literally just bought like a jar and I can't remember how much I paid for it, but it was like a jar of dried seaweed as a spice, as a
Yeah.
flavoring, right? And I'm like, I could have just picked it up out of the water down the street, man.
But that I wouldn't recommend. So, because anywhere near Vancouver,
No.
you need to go somewhere cleaner water, basically.
Right.
Like you could, if you were like, people ask me a lot of time, zombie apocalypse, can I eat,
Yeah.
the shellfish from Jericho or the, bull kelp or the seaweed
Yeah.
or whatever, right? And it's like, yeah, zombie apocalypse, go for it, eat the seaweed, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not a filter, like a bivalve sort of thing, a
Right.
clam, which are the more risky sort of filters. That's why you can never clam, obviously, on Jericho or anywhere. But with seaweed, it's less worrisome. But
And
you
I think
really
I
want
read that seaweed doesn't get affected by red tide or
correct. Yep.
so
Totally.
as long as you're not in the where all the pollution is, you
Yep.
can eat it all year long, all year
Yeah.
round. Okay.
Totally.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna get my forage on. And
Yeah.
when you were doing the tours, are you still doing tours? Foraging tours?
We aren't. No. So
No.
we had one scheduled for end of February, and because we're still in lockdown, we canceled it.
Because I
we
guess
have
it's hard to socially distance, even though you're
no.
outside and you're just wandering the forest. It's
No, it's easy to socially distance. It's just that right now you can't be in any groups sort of thing without that's not your household, right? So as soon as they open that up into your safe six, then it's possible to do private tours with us. So you could book your safe six for right? Yeah, and we have like lots of different wildcraft experts. So from mycologists to biologists, I work with Lori Snyder, who's a Métis medicinal specialist. So medicinal plants and fungi as well. So she's a really cool one to do a walk with in spring. Yeah, so we'll do the private things. That'll probably be the first opening up. We have on the website, so it's swallowtail.ca, we have March and June. We have all of our classes, our in-field classes set up. And, if you're interested, you can get a ticket. And then I'm always going to refund, obviously if we get shut down, you get it refunded, right? We even have our mushroom tours, which start in September, that are set up already. And then we're going to do probably a morel hunt in spring. So, yeah.
I'll
So
sign up for that one.
Yeah.
What's your favorite season to forage in?
Fall for mushrooms.
Fall?
Yeah. I mean, I do love the winter oysters. It was my birthday yesterday.
Yeah. Somebody just said happy birthday, Robin, on here, I noticed.
Yeah, it was my birthday, so I got a ton of oysters. Kisu oysters. So not Kishu, but Kisu.
Yeah.
So I think they're from Pender Island. They are so good and plump and like not, you know how you eat oysters in summer and they can be like fusty and kind of like overly creamy because that's when they're like reproducing. So they taste muddy, right? Winter is just like, it's like the only time I'll eat oysters. They're so yummy right now.
Just crisp and clear and
so tasty and salty. These were salty.
Now I'm getting a craving for oysters.
Yeah, totally. Have some bubbly with it.
Always. Always. My wine friend said bubbly goes with everything, but obviously especially oysters.
Yes, totally. Oh my God. Oh, and also truffles. So I just did for Valentine's Day, we did a online truffle cooking class.
Yeah.
and yeah, bubbly with that. I had people hand making pasta and cream sauce, and then serving the bubbly with that. Perfect.
And can you find truffles locally now?
Yep, you can. Yep. So actually, one of the people that were taking the class, I had a live session with them yesterday, and she had a truffle dog. I was like, "Where did everyone get their truffles?" And she was like, "Oh, I went out
What
with my
up?
dog into the forest and got my own." I was like, "Wow, okay, you're next level."
And then for you to say somebody else's next level, that's pretty next level.
Yep. No, that's beyond me. No dogs here.
That's like all kinds of levels now. Well, I had heard that it was kind of starting, and then there's actually, I think in Oregon, there's like an entire truffle week in January that you can go
Yeah.
down for. But the person I wanted to take was my son, who's now only 17, but when we wanted to go, he's only 15. No matter what, he wasn't the US drinking age, so he wasn't allowed to go to half of the conferences because it was all
Oh,
something with truffles, right?
yeah,
So I was
yeah.
like, okay, well, maybe we'll wait till you're 21 and then we'll go down for whatever truffle fest. It sounded like it was quite intense. I have no idea.
21, it's just like that's even longer you have to wait. You're like, oh, but he's legal.
I know. I was like, can I
Here,
get him a fake ID just to go get truffles? Just
good
for
mom.
truffle hunting? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
He's it sounds very similar to your path. He started working in restaurants at 15, so he's 17 now and working in quite a few restaurants locally.
Yep.
And it is hard seeing kind of firsthand through him how hard it is for a lot of these chefs and restaurants and people who are just they're like a lot of the people in my world, they're just so creative. And once you can't use that creativity for the things you want to use it for, it must be really tough for sure.
Yeah. And they're making even more reduced menus, right? So it's like because you have to make your ingredients go as far as they can and only order a certain amount of things, and you're it's kind of cool. Some people are being really sort of proactively creative with it in like it's sort of like Iron Chef, right? You're like, okay, I don't have access to these expensive ingredients
Yeah.
anymore. How do I reduce my menu but still make something super tasty that
I
people
just
want?
have what's in this box. What do I
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
do?
exactly. Which
What
is
is
my
it, the
favorite.
mystery box or something?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
um that was going to lead me to something. Oh, I forgot my question. It was about the TV and the chefs, but I'll remember it later. For now, you have your blog and your tours and your suppers. And what's next for 2021?
Well, hopefully so we're doing some sea foraging infield classes. So, and that's with chowder on the beach. So basically we take people out and they bundle up and, you bring like whatever hot tea or something like that. And then I'll make a chowder. I'll harvest stuff from Galliano probably for that, bring samples so you can see like bulk kelp, etc., all the different things that you can make out of these because with the sea foraging, we like to focus on things you can harvest without a boat. So it's really accessible to people, right? Because most people don't have those things.
Not everybody has a boat. And
Yeah,
your tours, do they always include a lunch or a dinner, like a meal component?
not always.
Not always.
They did in the past, but because of COVID, it's just made it a lot harder. So, for example, our fall mushroom infield tours, we do them at a Laura Seymour Conservation Reserve, and we didn't have any food with them last year. So the year before, yes, we always made wild mushroom pate, and you get to sample a few things. But now it's like 2 hours of chock-a-block education, so you get more info to go forage for your own stuff. But yeah, you didn't, get my pate. But my recipe's online, so
It's one of the 300 recipes on your website.
yeah, exactly.
That's amazing. And so you and I are starting together a 4-part series on foraging through the seasons that we're starting tomorrow.
Yep, I'm excited. Winter.
Yay! So tomorrow we're going to talk all about winter foraging. And people can also check out, obviously, your website. But what's like one thing that makes winter foraging so appealing besides the oysters?
Well, I mean, it depends on your natural bent. So some people find winter foraging exciting because of the zombie apocalypse. So, you know, you need to know these things in case something goes sideways and you need to find food. That is useful, especially with all the athletic people in Vancouver and around, sort of thing, Pacific
Yeah.
Northwest that love to hike, etc. So from a survivalist point of view, it's good. Figuring out what roots you can eat and that sort of thing. But I mean, for me as a chef, I love to focus on the things that are tastiest, not just that you can gnaw on for sustenance. So I try to bridge that gap. But yeah, so winter is about roots, obviously, and some mushrooms. So depending on where you are. So in Vancouver, you know, the snow before this one, when I was on Galliano, so that was like a month ago or something like that, I was still seeing hedgehog mushrooms. So one of my favorite mushrooms popping up. So so winter mushrooms you can get roots, and then seafood. So it's all about seafood right now. Because again, like I said, the water quality is clean and clear. You can hand harvest your own urchin. So that's something that I can talk about tomorrow.
Yes.
And
I'm excited for that one.
yeah, totally. Sea cucumber, there's lots of different stuff.
Oh, and all grabbable from the shore. Like you said, you don't have to have a boat. You don't have to be a certified diver to go find these foods. You could just like maybe get a pair of waders on and you're good to go.
Yeah, pick them up with, well, tongs for
Oh, yeah.
gloves and stuff. But
I was going to ask tomorrow, how do you pick up a sea urchin? I don't know. What is the safe way to do that?
yeah,
I was surprised too, because I started your like online class today, and just how many things are actually in most of our backyards.
totally.
Like just sitting there in my own yard, the weeds that I would normally just mow over, my husband would usually just mow over, and we would never even think of. And then you were already showing them in the first one or two little class sessions there that there's all these things just basically in the vacant lot down the street that, you know, the dogs aren't peeing on, or in your own backyard.
Yard.
Okay, maybe my front yard. My dogs do pee on everything in the backyard.
Little pee, whatever. Yeah, well, it's funny. So I just, one of the videos I posted on my YouTube channel recently was dandelion, because the thing is in Vancouver, because it's still so mild and the snow is melting, I harvested wild watercress as well as dandelion. And I made just like a simple stir fry, right? So just like, I love, well, actually, I did the stir fry video. And then yesterday for my birthday, I did like a fry up. So I did steak on the fire, and then mushrooms and tomatoes and zucchini and this vegetable sort of medley with pecorino cheese, and chopped into it tons of dandelion. So you get this like rich, meaty, cheesy, but then the bitter bite of the dandelion to sort of like, dandelion is your radicchio. It's our radicchio, right? So I love dandelion. It's super good for you. So that's that online course is all about those little things we ignore, right? We think of them as they're weeds, but it's like they're fabulous, tasty, and like you said about foraging before, it's like it's about when you pick it, right? How fresh it is.
Well, and how fresh, and like you just hit on too, how much healthier it is. Then, like you've mentioned, like something grown out of California that maybe got picked 2 weeks ago and has been on a truck and in whatever and made its way somehow to where we live, has probably, first of all, never got all the nutrients it should have had if it had ripened. And second of all, it just is never going to be as healthy as something that's full of their nutrients still, and you're just literally picking it out of the ground and cooking it up. So
exactly.
I'm so excited for our series. And yes, starting tomorrow, winter's not a very long season here, but I'm excited for all the seafood options for sure.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
that's gonna be a fun chat. And everybody can find you at swallowtail.ca.
Yep, that's right.
And are you on Instagram? I know I'm following you on Facebook, because that's where the secret club started, on Facebook.
Yeah, and if people want to know about secret suppers and the more underground sort of members only stuff, they can go to my website and then email me and request to be put on the members list. So that's for people around Vancouver that want invites into the more sort of underground stuff. I'll throw that out to you guys.
Secret stuff. I like
and we'll start those eventually. Yeah, and
we will, and maybe we can even co-host one day.
Yes. Oh my God,
when I have a kitchen again.
Yes.
It's not a kitchen right now,
but it will be fabulous.
We're hoping so. Okay, I can't wait to catch up tomorrow, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Sweet. Okay.
Somebody said they love your mushroom pate, by the way.
Oh, awesome. I'm so happy.
Okay, chat again tomorrow.
See ya.
Bye.